that thing that's now called Smart Val,
yes,
which is
on the Boomin website. Yeah.
Which is where consumers have to, and then agents have to race, and within 15 minutes, have to respond with a valuation figure.
That's great.
Well, if you see the threads of agents who are doing it, saying, I'm trying to relax in the evening, watch TV with my family.
Well, maybe they shouldn't be in the estate agency business then.
And
because look, we keep talking about the consumer, right? So this is all about the consumer. That's the lens through which we should be looking at the agent.
Let me finish the comment I was making, right? Because these agents are saying, I am racing to give a valuation figure on a property I haven't seen.
No, but that's not the point of Smart Val. The point of Smart Val is to start the conversation so that the agent the agent can do then exactly what you're doing with BestAgent, which is to get face-to-face in the lounge a day or two later. That's exactly what a Smart Val is.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's no different to automated val.
But the difference is the speed, and I think where it works very well is that it suits the consumer. If I want a valuation on my property, albeit an automated valuation, or I want a valuation booked, I don't want to wait 36 hours for someone to come back to me, because I'm in front of my screen now.
Yeah, of course not.
I've got time now as a consumer. And the problem with Rightmove valuations and website valuations is the agent often either doesn't come back to the consumer at all, or takes 48 hours to do so. The beauty of the Boomin Smart Val product is you're going back to that consumer when they are still engaged as a potential consumer. That's how it works. And look, from what I understand, I've not seen the numbers, but there are a lot of agents that are doing very well out of it. They're engaging consumers in conversation straight away, getting face-to-face and converting those face-to-face valuations into listings because of that speed.
Well, I've been objectively quietly watching the private Facebook group where they're all talking about it, and there's a few going, I've had a few instructions, but mostly they're tire kickers.
But this comes back to the fundamental problem with estate agency, is estate agents, a bit like conveyancers, as we were talking about just now, they want everything to be like it was in 1975. Look, the agents, if they want to be successful, they need to innovate, they need to improve, and they certainly need to be in line with consumer expectations in 2022, not consumer expectations in 1982. So, I'm not surprised as agents moaning about Smart Val. They're the ones that shut up shop at 5 o'clock, don't reply to their Rightmove, Boomin and Zoopla leads, and probably don't return customers' calls.
I think that's a harsh generalisation.
Well, I've been in the industry 25 years, I'll tell you that.
What I'm saying is, I've seen actual agents saying, I'm replying to these leads out of hours.
Yeah,
and it's not worth it.
Because the consumer doesn't work within hours.
No,
the consumer works
They're not complaining. They're saying, I'm buying into it. I'm doing what I'm asked. I'm responding with a number within 15 minutes, you probably haven't seen.
The problem for those agencies that there are, as I understand it, tens of thousands of those leads now being created by Boomin and Smart Val leads. Tens of thousands, because of course what Boomin under Michael and Kenny are doing is exactly what they did with Purplebricks, building a household name really quickly. So their marketing budget of whatever it is, 15, 20 million quid a year, is already now generating huge consumer demand in terms of those inquiries. If the agent wants to sit back and ignore those leads, and they're genuine leads from people, far better than a Rightmove lead, because they're actually, please come and value my house. I want to have a conversation about that now. If the agent says, it's gone 5 o'clock, it's gone 5 o'clock, well, no, I couldn't possibly reply to that until Monday.
The seller's going, I want an online valuation. And it's a real agent rather than an automated agent.
Or for the agent, if they're not going to get with that advancement based on what the consumer wants. So it's no different to what you're doing.
It's very different. So one of the things is that, you couldn't make up the irony of this. They've started up agents together because they're really worried about agents' mental health. And there are agents saying that this is destroying my quiet time, my family in the evening, and it's making me anxious.
Agents together and Boomin are completely separate things. They might have there's commonality in terms of people, but agents together isn't part of Boomin. It's a totally separate entity.
I was telephoned by someone before Agents Together was announced to ask me if I would be a mentor. That person said to me, this is to try and repair their damaged perception from agents before they launch their new thing, which hadn't been announced at that point. I said, if any agent thinks that I'm of any use as a mentor to them, they're welcome to call me, and you're welcome to put my name on the list of mentors, but I don't want my name publicly associated with it. All right, sorry, thanks. It's PR. Of course it is. It looks like they care.
But if you were to be interviewing Sarah Edmondson now, who's the CEO
I love her. She's great.
Together, she'd be telling you story after story after story of all the agents that they've helped.
Oh, sorry, I'm not saying that they aren't helping agents. I'm not saying that, but yet again, Michael and Kenny are getting other people working for free and making them look good.
Yeah,
right?
but they would say if they were sitting here, they're not here to
volunteers.
defend themselves. Well, no, hang on. We set up a charitable organisation that's run by people to help agents, and they're giving their time to help other people.
They're making themselves look good on the back of mental health.
Yeah, but like you would if you did any
Without even
charity work.
paying any of the mentors.
Yeah, but
Right?
they wouldn't. But do
it's-
people working for charities in that capacity really, honestly, want to get paid
Being a
to do
mentor
the
to
right
someone
thing?
isn't charitable. If you're just supporting people who
But they're
come
doing
to
it
help.
throughout. They're doing it through their own free choice. You know, the likes of Michael Day, and
Yeah,
whoever else,
amazing people.
Chris Watkins,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
on. Yeah, they're not idiots. These people.
No.
So they're
They
doing
don't,
it
but
out
they've been
of kindness of their
seduced by the
heart.
sparkly Bruce
No,
brothers.
but that
Yeah.
kind of insults their intelligence, doesn't it? You're
Perhaps-
saying that Michael Day and Chris
perhaps,
Watkins are
shouldn't we all have that
are
question
rabbits in the
sometimes?
headlights, that they've been cast a spell over by Michael and Kenny Bruce. That's
I think it's very, very healthy for everyone to ask themselves that question.
Yeah.
Have I perhaps been seduced by the sparkly stuff? Could I perhaps have helped people without their involvement?
But couldn't it just be as simple as those mentors want to do the right thing for the
They
industry?
don't need Kenny and Bruce to do that.
Well,
They can go out on social media and say, "Hi, I'm here for an awesome help."
Agents together, and look, Sarah runs it, right? Under Sarah, they've provided the platform for that advice, mentoring, help, and for some mental health counselling, which.
But people who needed it could have got it without that. Sarah's someone
Well,
I
sure,
respect.
but there wasn't a
massively. She's
platform.
paying, that's different.
Yeah, but there isn't a platform, is there? I don't know of any other platform.
You don't need a platform
ring-
to get mentoring.
Ring,
That's like,
ring the Samaritans as a lister that's had a shit day.
no, you can just, I mean, the rest of the world, if they actually want help, just ask people for it.
Yeah, I don't
Don't go to an organisation
Ask
to a
who?
brand.
Ask who?
Anyone. They are social media.
If I
They
rang
can
you
do
and said,
it.
"I've had a shit day, Charlie,"
I saw an agent yesterday on Twitter.
But that's not
say
reality, is
literally, an agent yesterday on Twitter said, "I'm having a properly shit day," and he got loads of responses, and he was like,
the chances of even 1% of the estate agency fraternity turning to social media publicly and saying, "I'm having a problem mentally," that's, you never see it. We rarely see it because people are not going to do that. The beauty of agents together is you can go and do that, and it's kind of under the cover. It's done.
You or I could
confidentially.
put on our LinkedIn profile, anyone who's having a tough time, if you think I can help, private message me.
Yeah, but far better for a platform to be produced that actually facilitates that. That's what they do.
How? I mean, I don't see how, what it
Because they
facilitates.
provide
It can, you can find
It's working. They've got dozens and hundreds of
It's
mentors.
very clever. Like I mean, they rinsed their LPEs for years to the point that there's now a massive class action against them. They are people. I don't know them personally. They might be very nice people. They might just be misguided, right? I have people I know who I really respect and like, and they're good people who have made investments into companies that they didn't realise were bad, right? And they don't realise that they're hurting people. I don't know Kenny. I don't know Michael. Or it's like either they know they're hurting people and doing
Yeah, but when you say hurting people, what do you mean by hurting?
taking money off sellers without selling their house.
Yeah, but they would also argue that.
Under false pretenses.
So last time I.
LPEs, making them work
But look,
at their own
look,
expense.
Be clear, Michael and Kenny haven't been part of that business for some time now. The last time I heard Michael talking about, let's say, the performance of the business was I think he did Radio 4, and he talked about, and you can argue this is wrong, but this is what he said, so we assume it's right. 88% of Purplebricks listings sold, right?
No one assumes that, right?
But that's what he said, so just assume that that's correct for a second, which means, given that they were listing 6,000 properties a month, right, so about 70,000 properties a year, 88% of 70,000 listings were sold and saved people an inordinate amount of money.
You don't believe that, though, for a minute, do you?
I'm just playing out the facts and the data that we have in front of us, right? So
It's
when
not fact.
No, but when
It's
you talk
speculation,
about
I get it.
hurting people, there's an argument that 60,000 people a year have saved anything between £2,000 and £20,000.
No, but we know from Colby's data that online agents get less for your property than conventional
That's not the
agents.
data that I saw. So 20 CI.
4% less.
20 CI. When I had 20 CI do a complete analysis of the sector back in 2017, the opposite was true.
No, but later than that, 20 CI were the ones who did it.
So online agents were selling quicker and were selling for a greater amount of money compared to asking costs. Do you know why? Because the sellers were motivated more because they'd already committed a payment. That's
I
why.
don't know which parallel universe you live in, Russell.
No, that's the data.
No,
That
no,
is.
no, no.
Look, I know you don't fancy
Michael
getting away with
Bruce
the
on
story.
Radio 4 saying 88% is not data. Any more than Boris Johnson saying...
But when you're the CEO of a listed business, there has to be an assumption that is accurate.
Yes, but it's very easy to say we've sold 80%,
Otherwise, if you're
because it
saying-
depends on the definition of sold.
But if-
Did they all exchange?
Well, I don't know, but if you're saying it's 50%, let's
I
say,
don't know
where'd you
what
get the 50% from?
I'm not saying
It
it's
might be
100%.
100%.
I'm not putting a figure on
No,
it, 'cause I don't know.
so I threw that back at you, again, just being devil's advocate, that when we talk about hurting people, we could probably calculate that if the average person saved £3,000 in estate agency fees, times 60,000 people a year, times the 5-6 years that they've been in
Didn't say
existence.
3,000 quid. The average instruction value of what they're selling is the lower end, right? We know they do
That's
well in the
250
north,
grand.
right?
Yeah, but you don't know that the outcome would have been better or worse, so we have to assume that it's on par. The data
you don't have to assume that.
No, you do, because the data that I have from when I ran an online estate agency business was that there was no detriment, absolutely no detriment, to an online agent selling a home in terms of the price achieved, right? That's what the data says. It's not my supposition, it's what the data says.
Russell, that data can't exist because no one will
No
one will know what that house would have sold for.
No, but it's an average, right? So if you take the average of, let's say, Connells sell at 97% of asking price, and Purplebricks sell at 98% of asking price, that's the average, right? There is no other way of knowing.
But asking price is different
because we can't split the universe in two and run an A/B test.
No,
right?
It's a sliding door.
Yes, so therefore, if Purplebricks, let's say, sell 1% better, well, that's 2,700 quid better. Plus the saving on fee.
I'm not saying that there aren't some people who do that, right? If you've got one of those properties that's going to sell no matter who.
I just think it's a bit harsh to say that the Purplebricks business damaged people.
It did. It hurt sellers, which is why they were hauled up on watchdog.
No, I just counted that.
It hurt LPEs, stories of LPEs who
600
were working.
LPEs earning 30, 40, 50, 60,000 pounds a year.
Yeah, but sorry, the hours that they were doing, the cost, they weren't earning. Sorry, that's not what they're earning. That was their turnover.
This wasn't slavery.
They had to pay for their own car, their own petrol, their own. They did.
But it wasn't slavery.
They weren't earning 30 grand.
Well, the average was certainly earning that sort of money. If you
So
look,
no, that was their turnover, not what they were earning.
well, no,
They had to take all the costs out of
that's
that.
their revenue. That's their income.
It's not profit.
Yeah, but look, it's their choice. It's their
Yes, it
choice.
was. And a lot of them turned around and gone,
And
I
if
was
they-
exploited.
And if they want to, no, but come on, look, this isn't, this isn't China or North Korea. They're not made to be an LPE. They decide to apply for a role, they get the role, they work in it for 3 or 4 years and earn X pounds. That's a matter for them. But what we're saying is all work is exploitative. What are you going to say next? All property is theft?
I mean, okay, so
They're not a Marxist.
the court has decided that those LPEs will have a claim, and there's now.
Well, the court hasn't decided that. The claim hasn't gone in yet.
There is a class action.
Yeah.
Right.
I know it well because I'm the PR agency for the lawyer.
Right. Okay.
But it hasn't gone in yet.
So what stage is it at?
It's at the point where enough agents have triggered the principle of the action, and now the claimant, which will be, it's not called a class action, it's called whatever the UK term is. It now triggers the request of the court to turn it into a group litigation order, GLO. Yep. That group litigation order then at that point, once that's accepted by the court, then the claim gets drawn, that then gets submitted, disclosure happens, and then there'll be a claim probably sometime down the line.
So the lawyers that you're doing PR for believe that there are enough injured legally people.
No, so this is nothing to do with Purplebricks as a business exploiting, as you put it. This is the mechanism that now exists around IR35 and similar, it's not all about IR35, where the law now says, so it didn't say back then, now says that the company will be liable for things like holiday pay and pension contributions themselves rather than the individual, and that's what's triggered the action. So it's got nothing to do with what Purplebricks thought or did
because they were working longer hours than an employee would have been allowed to do by law.
Because they were self-employed.
Yes, I know, but the law as it was then allowed those LPs to be exploited, and that's what the case is.
It's not exploitative, is it? They had their own businesses, so they wanted to work hard to do as well as they could. Look, I know LPEs and I know territory owners that are no longer LPEs and territory owners that earn 80, 90, 100 pounds a year.
I'm sure there were some that did good ones.
Well, that's...
Yeah. Sorry, a territory owner, they're part of the exploitation.
Yeah.
They've got the LPEs working for them.
But we're saying that 600 LPEs of their own choice and volition decided to go and do a job and continue doing that job, and that's exploiting them. Why don't they just go and do something else? If they thought it was exploitative.
I don't know. I have to ask them. I can't say.
It was fine at the time to take.
This isn't my opinion. This is what I've read some of them saying.
Right?
I feel like I was sold.
Yeah, but that's anecdotal. You could always find 3 or 4 people out of 600 or 5 out of 5,000.
If there's a group litigation or whatever the hell.
Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with the conditions of work. That has got everything to do with what the law now says. No, there's a massive differentiation where it now says that actually they were not formally self-employed, they were employed. Got nothing to do with hours of work. That's got everything to do with the fact that now Purplebricks actually owes them potentially holiday pay and pension contributions. By the way, it's stage 1.
Those are conditions of work.
No, they're not. No, that's not what the action's about. It's not about the hours or the effort they put in, it's what should have been paid
Right.
rather than avoided as a self-employed dynamic. And those hundreds, as there are, of LPEs that have now become part of that group litigation order, they stand to win, on average, probably £15,000 to £20,000, depending on how long they were at Purplebricks, based on the fact that neither they nor Purplebricks, or Purplebricks, didn't pay those contributions. Those contributions are now due.
I call that exploitation.
No, but
You disagree with me.
Don't twist it, because we started off talking about hours worked. That was your exploitative measure.
Okay, but holiday pay comes into that.
No, but that's a whole different subject and argument altogether.
You just said hundreds of LPEs
Yeah.
are going together to make a
But
claim.
they weren't made.
If they didn't get what they should have.
But they weren't made to work there, and they weren't made to work the hours. What we're talking about here is a change of law that now allows, potentially, if it's accepted and if it's proven, that claim to benefit those LPEs. It's almost retrospective, so it didn't apply back then, but it applies now.